Welcome to episode 15 of The Rational Homer. I am your host, Kyle, as we enter the final week of July. Andy will join us in a bit, once again, to discuss the 3M Open this past weekend, Jordan 2, LeBron to the 76ers, and very little baseball trade deadline talk. It is still fairly quiet this early in the week. Welcome back, Andrew, to another week of The Rational Homer. We are going to discuss the 3M Open that took place in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis. As it was a very interesting week as a fresh new player won and got his 500 credits points. And what were your thoughts on this weekend's tournament?
Well, thanks again for having me as always. Kind of in the dog days of summer sports wise. So the 3M Open is the headline sporting event, but it actually was one that I think had a really good storyline for right now and for the future of golf because Jackson Coiven not only won as the former number one ranked junior player in the world, but just brand new as a pro this year, but he beat Scotty Scheffler to get his first win. So I feel like it's like current generation versus possible next generation. And it's not like they were playing together and like going back and forth, but Scotty shot 8 under in the final round to get into clear cut second place, and Quayman could have easily, folded or saw the
Yeah,
leaderboard and
forward to that pressure of the
right.
number one player in the world on the back of his heel.
And he didn't, and he shot 5 under himself with no bogeys. So it was pretty impressive. And I must say that I didn't know a ton about Quaven other than hearing that he was the next up and comer, and I enjoyed watching him. And they said he grew up on like just a 9 hole public course, not like a country club or like academy golfer, groomed to be the next best thing. So I feel like that's easier to root for, in my opinion. And I think that was quite literally the best thing that could have happened to the 3M Open, short of Scotty winning. But I almost think Koiven winning over Scotty gives it a little bit more attention than it would have gotten.
Yeah, I think it definitely does give it more attention because the story isn't about Scotty just won another tournament. The story is about, Scotty got second and got beat by, a young up and comer that it might be the next best thing. Of course, we've heard that about other players before.
Right. That in golf, I feel like that's always touchy to say that, but he
Yeah.
has kind of won a lot of the big junior events and there was a lot of hype. So at least he followed it up with a very immediate win. I think it was only his second tournament as a pro, but it was like his 13th pro tournament because he's obviously played several of them as an amateur. But like his first pro tournament was the John Deere just a few weeks ago, and he doesn't even make the cut, So you're kind of like, how's he going to handle, this expectation and the pro career versus just being an amateur happy to be there. And I think he kind of answered it pretty well.
Yeah, and he shot, 25 under. He did extremely well. He shot a 61 on Saturday. And the other impressive player that shot a 59, what was it, on Friday? Is
Yep.
that when it was? Mr. Kim, which is pretty incredible to see. Sadly, he finished tied for 10th overall, but I know it's still pretty impressive to see that somebody shot almost, 2 scores lower than what the par for the course is.
Right. It's whenever you see a sub 60, you're like, oh my gosh, that guy must have been like unconscious because that's so hard to do. And it is hilarious how golf's a sport where the next day you can come out and shoot whatever he did, like 14 strokes worse or 13 strokes worse. It's
Yeah,
just
he's trying to 70 on Saturday and pretty
close
much
to
fell
11
into
strokes. Right.
he's pretty much fell into contention though. I mean, that's how it was shaping up there.
Yeah, so it's just funny how golf works, where one day you feel like every putt will go in and you can't do anything wrong. The next day you can't get anything going. And it was kind of crazy to see him finish tied for 10th after you have a number that low, but that's golf. Another thing with
Yeah,
the Koiven, by winning, he got to 70th in the FedEx points, which is exactly the last place to get into the first round of the playoffs. So that was pretty crazy.
yes, and that kind of leads into our next topic here. So the top 70 make the FedEx Cup playoffs. So if you're in the bottom half of that and you're kind of struggling and you withdraw from this tournament when you need FedEx Cup points, what is the thinking there?
I'm not sure who would do that, but yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
And in case anyone is wondering, I'm obviously talking about Jordan Spieth. He withdrew.
I
Yeah, he withdrew from the 3M Tournament Open, but he entered in the following weekend tournament, which is the Rocket Mortgage, I believe this weekend.
Yep.
So a little confused by that. And honestly, you can't put too much stock into the scores, but when people are out here shooting 25 under, that's not a typical leaderboard score. Normally it's anywhere from 7 to 12. Most of the time seems to be pretty average. Just very interesting that you would withdraw from a tournament like this. I did some research on the course, and it seems like you want to be very accurate driven. There's not much room for error on either side, which, given how Spieth has been playing, accuracy has definitely seemed to be a problem for him. So maybe that's why he withdrew. But I thought maybe, you just want to go out there and play, and if you do well, you do well. If you don't, you just chalk it up and move on to next week. But I guess he did
Yeah,
otherwise.
I'm not gonna lie, it's extremely puzzling decision, especially because he basically did it like as he missed the cut for the British Open for the first time in his career. I would imagine there's some dark thoughts coming from the Spieth camp right now. I also think that a coaching change and or a caddy change would probably benefit him, even though he showed no signs of doing that.
What
So
about a putter change? We're still on that topic.
well, that too. Equipment, putter, caddy, swing coach. I just think there's so many things not going well for him right now that
A sports
I bet,
psychologist maybe to help with the
right.
game a little bit.
I kind of think that he probably is like the last thing I need right now is to go to a birdie fest tournament and just get embarrassed or
Yeah,
saved
that's
if
fair.
potential embarrassment. But the Rocket Mortgage is kind of a similar level of tournament as a 3M where it's a course that's an easier setup and a weaker field, which always means that scores can get low. So I think he knows that the top 50 number is what you need to get into everything next year. And he was right inside of it. Now that he hasn't been playing plus missing cuts, he's now outside of it. So I think he knows he needed one more event that he hadn't normally played in. And so, for better or worse, we're trying the Rocket Mortgage Open for the first time in his career.
And
And
how
we'll,
many events are left of the season before the FedEx?
I think there's only two. Let me double check that.
Yeah,
Because
because I
the other rationale for this scheduling decision, yeah, there's two more. It's the Rocket this weekend, and then the Wyndham Championship, which is in North Carolina. And then it goes to the first round of the FedEx playoffs. So I think someone was saying the idea behind this scheduling, like decision by Spieth or anyone, is you go into the playoffs playing like the exact 2 weeks ahead of it versus I guess the 3M would be one, but then you take a week off and then play two more. I don't really know how that's that much different, but who knows? I just know that he's struggling and we're running out of time.
yeah, and that's definitely a big issue for him. And I saw another interesting topic is I saw, and it was a week or so ago, but how Rory wasn't going to be playing in any more tournaments, and how he technically needed to play in one more to qualify for some FedEx. Isn't there a minimum for the FedEx thing?
Like
Where
you need
like
to play in a minimum number of events.
yeah, and he's like, I'll just play in the FedEx, and he's like, I don't know if we'll get a fine then or what, but I thought that was interesting how like he doesn't seem that concerned about it. I guess.
Yeah, he's definitely been doing more of like a just like a I'm gonna do a schedule that's convenient for me versus like I'm gonna do a schedule that makes sure I have the number of appearances to keep the PGA happy as a face of the PGA. I
Well, yeah, they're definitely not going to leave him out of the FedEx. Like that would be absolutely
no.
barbaric. But it will be interesting to see what kind of result of that is if he doesn't meet the minimum. If he has to do some sort of extra appearance or something. I just think that's an interesting topic because I'm sure people will be watching that.
Right. Okay, I just got some official ruling on that. You have to play 15 official events each season to keep your full PGA Tour status and avoid penalties. I'm not really sure what the penalties are, maybe like
So,
monetary.
yeah,
But
but
he is going to only play 14, and it sounds like he got a discretionary exemption
mm,
for extenuating circumstances. I'm sure it's some BS where they said like he had some commitment or some reason why he couldn't make all 15, but that's just kind of what you get if you're, like I said,
yeah,
the top
elite
two
status. Yeah,
superstar. Right,
elite
right.
status. So.
Which honestly, these next two events, they're smaller purses and like an avid golfer is going to watch, but it's it is what it is. I'm sure it's more so the sponsors of these last two tournaments will get mad if their fields aren't strong because they pay a lot of money to host them and
Yeah.
expect the PGA to give them something in return. But whatever, I guess.
Yep, it is what it is. Seems like he's gonna get away with it, so not much
Yeah,
he
of
can do.
course.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's
do
a,
like though that we could get the potential next best player of a generation sneaking in way late as the last spot into the playoffs, which would mean Koivu would have to play really well to even advance to the next week. But I still think the more big names and hype you can get in the playoffs, the better it is for the tour.
well, yeah, even just making the playoffs. I mean, as an amateur, and making it in the last months of the season, basically.
Right.
Because if you probably wins one more event, he would probably make it in fairly easily. I would assume if he gained 500
Right. If
left.
he won
Oh god,
again,
yeah.
he would easily make it. I think if he has a strong finish at the last two events, he also will still make it. So, like, just the fact that he's in that position when he's only played two events so far as a pro is pretty wild.
Yeah, and obviously I'll be pulling for him, pulling for the younger person, kind of the fresh meat on the course.
Right.
But moving on, any other news you want to talk about besides your good old Jordan Spieth, buddy?
Well, I'm pretty down on speed, so I'm trying to avoid that right now, but I'm just going to be positive for this week and see what happens. I know you're not a huge NBA guy, but I think we, as a sports podcast, we got to mention the LeBron to Philly news.
Yes, that's coming off them trading for Jalen Brown, which is interesting. I'm a Celtics fan, so I'm kind of torn on the Jalen Brown thing. I really like Jalen Brown, but it's interesting how he goes from being the number two in Boston to probably being the number 3 or 4 in Philly now. If I had to guess, in terms of popularity, anyway.
For sure, for popularity. In terms of usage, I think he's obviously still going to be up there because you're looking at a starting lineup that hinges on both Joel Embiid being healthy and LeBron James committing to however many minutes or games he's going to commit to at
Well,
age,
and
what,
well,
like,
you still got Tyrese Maxey that you'll get the ball as well.
right. I think Maxi is going to get the ball a lot and facilitate the offense. Jalen Brown's going to want the ball a lot, and rightfully so for both those two. And then you have Embiid, who can be dominant if healthy, and you have LeBron, who at this point in his career is more kind of like a facilitator, but
Well, I mean, he
who
signed
knows?
for 5.7 million, so obviously he just wants to try to win a championship as his career winds down here. I'm not
Right. And
looking,
I
not
think,
looking for a payday, just looking for a place he can go and kind of mentor the younger guys and not being expected to put up
yeah,
40 minutes, 40
I
minutes a
think,
game.
yeah. And the fact that he chose them instead of the other suitors he had with the Miami or Golden State or Cleveland shows that he clearly picked for his best fit, which I think he did pick correctly, but it'd be interesting to see. There's so many storylines and dynamics, but yeah, like a Jalen Brown, you were the star of your team, then Tatum comes back, you immediately get bumped back to like playing second fiddle again, and then you get traded to a Philly team where you're probably still going to be the star with Maxi. And now all of a sudden, LeBron joins to completely overshadow you. And just a short time ago, you got caught on camera saying you don't think Bronny is going to be a pro. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of just funny storylines with the LeBron decision, but I kind of get LeBron fatigue. I'm sure you do too. It's just like he
Well,
he needs the attention.
yeah, just LeBron proceed going. Winning championships different places is cool, but I mean, I'm always more of the kind of the older guy that like seeing players stay in one spot their whole career, or most of their career. Not
Right.
not have multiple teams when you look at their stats. 4 different teams in 5 years or something crazy like that. I prefer they're gonna spend half their career here and then maybe hop around towards the end, just depending upon what team needs are and if they get traded and things like that. But
Exactly.
so
Well, and
I
I
kind of
think like he in one of his tweets about his decision, I feel like he sent like 20 of them. But he was like, "This is and what is my last decision?" And I'm like, just don't say that because I feel like there's a world where he could still finish out his career for like his last year as a Cleveland Cavalier just to go home when he's no longer feeling like he's gonna chase a ring. But maybe that'll never happen for LeBron because it's just who he is. But I don't know. I feel like he gets in his own way a lot with
Well,
PR.
the first decision was so played out as it was anyway. I mean, on ESPN, that was just kind of a weird. I found that whole thing weird, like, because nobody's ever really done that before, where they had a whole special announcing who they were picking, and that was just
Right.
that kind of burned me out the first time. So
Right. And here are like what, 3 or 4 decisions later. So it's just like a lot.
yeah, what else can you do? Well, that'll be the
Right.
NBA. That will start in October, so that's not too important of a deal. I mean, we'll discuss it a little bit as the Iowa and Iowa State players make starts. And Halliburton should be back this year for Indiana, so we'll talk about them a little bit. But NBA is not really a forefront for us, as it'll be a middle of football season and the beginning of college basketball season.
Yeah. We got a lot coming up. It's just that few week period where you're kind of like, other than
Nobody
golf or
really.
baseball, I guess.
I mean, there's not really. And the baseball trade deadline is coming up here. And
Are
before
my
that,
are my Yankees gonna do anything?
I haven't seen anything really too much yet. They're really probably not going to pick up till like 2 days, till the 29th or the 30th. I'm sure there'll be moves. I'm sure the Yankees will make moves because they need to catch up to Tampa Bay. But it seems like every year there's fewer and fewer moves, or if there are moves, it seems like they're in the same league. Which usually you
Right.
used to see a lot more cross league trading at the trade deadline, where they'd flip leagues, and it's kind of a really big deal. But now it just seems like there's not as many big names getting traded. There's a lot of talk of big names getting traded, but either they're under contract or they just want too much for them, and they can't reach a deal. They end up staying put. So that kind of is the downside of the trade deadline. Is there's a lot of talk, but sometimes there's just not a lot happening, and there hasn't been any big splashes yet. Sometimes there's usually an early, a team will make that first move to get ahead of the pressure of the trade deadline, and that hasn't really happened yet. And usually the first trade is what sets for like usually it's for a starting pitcher, and then that will set the market for the rest of the starting pitchers, around the same age, the same type of contract, or things like that for the trade deadline. But that hasn't happened yet, so you're just kind of waiting for that first big domino to fall, and then it becomes reactionary. If the Yankees did this, well then Boston, who's extremely hot right now, has to feel like they have to make a competitive move to stay with the Yankees. So it becomes a very interesting cat and mouse game, which it's fun to watch. But until that stuff happens, and until you see who's traded and if it's a good deal or not. I mean, the Cubs got Pete Crow Armstrong at the deadline a couple years ago for half a season of Javier Baez, which might be one of the best deals in baseball because PCA is looking like an MVP candidate right now for the National League with Otani and his throwing issues and things like that for pitching. So it's just a very interesting situation.
Right. I mean, I always do like following the trade deadline, probably because I'm always hoping the Yankees do something smart for once, but I guess we'll see. It is kind of funny that both our teams, Cubs and Yankees, are first place wild card teams right now. I'd like the Yankees to get back ahead of Tampa, but we'll see.
Tampa Bay's probably not going to make any moves just because they don't have the salary to do that. Because they're a small market team. Like the Yankees,
Right.
they can make something work for any player, but where Tampa Bay, they don't really have that luxury. So it's an interesting how Tampa Bay is in the position they are with not having really any known super big time players like an Aaron Judge or a Pete Crow Armstrong or a Kyle Schwarber or Bryce Harper. So it's and the Phillies are probably going to make some trades for pitching, I would assume as well. The Cubs are really in on Tariq Skubal from Detroit, their ace pitcher, which would be interesting to see what
That'd be
the Cubs could.
crazy.
I mean, it would, and the reports are that Skubal would like to sign a long term to stay in Chicago, but, I mean, obviously those are just reports until it comes right from his mouth where it's agreed upon, but obviously the first thing is they have to trade for Skubal first. And given the Cubs' track record over recent years, with trading, they're not going to trade the farm for one player. So, I hope it happens. They need starting pitching real bad. I just don't see them forking over the prospects in order to get him. But we will see, I guess, what happens there.
Yeah, I'll be following it. I still like the Cubs, so I like keep up on what's happening, but I'm just not like a diehard.
Yeah, I mean, you got a job and other things that keep you occupied, playing in golf tournaments and
All the priorities, right?
Yep, yeah, you got a dog to take care of, things like that. So,
Yeah, well, I got you to keep me updated.
yeah, that's in the group chat, that's for sure. So, I'll probably do it for this week's episode with Andrew as my co-host, and we'll be back next week, and it'll be into August. And I don't know if we'll talk college football yet then, but we'll definitely talk about the Rocket Mortgage tournament and maybe any other news that comes out, whether that be NFL related or there's some college football news that comes out. And eventually I will be touching on Matt Campbell at Penn State. In the Penn State having like 24 players from Iowa State this season, but I don't know when that will be. So it'll be before the season starts. But we'll see what happens when that actually happens. Thank you for joining us, Andrew.
Thanks as always. Looking forward to the next one.
And remember, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions for sports-related content you'd like me to react to, send an email to rationalhomer@gmail.com.